Is the mic on?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Hey, Studio 108 community. This is Tracy here, and I'm excited to be sitting with Leah. She is an herbalist, and I don't know, I'll let her tell you more, but she brought some really interesting information to my attention around burnout and adrenal fatigue, and I feel like a lot of us could use this conversation. So we're here today.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about what is burnout and what is adrenal fatigue and
Right.
what we can do from a food as medicine perspective to help ourselves with stress, resiliency, recovery, and performance. And we're going to have a conversation about adaptogens today, which is a class of herbs. Well, and some of them are basically just botanicals, right? Because one of them is actually a mushroom. So, but a class of herbs that help support our body in stress resiliency.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know, can you avoid stress?
So no, and what's really interesting is it's not like a huge part of, you know, our body's response to stress has a lot to do with what we're telling ourselves about the stress. So like you and I could be under the same amount of stress, say, but maybe you're, in your head, you're like, this is fun. It's a great big adventure. Like I feel so ignited by life and so engaged and, versus me, I could say, I'm so stressed out. I'm so burnt out. This is awful. I'm depressed. Oh, this is so bad. And it's just our perception of stress is going to create an entirely different cascade of hormones to be released through our body.
Yeah, and I think like there's a lot that's shared about mindset that isn't necessarily woven into the physicality of how very true it is in your body's form. Like your body responds to that thought in a particular way that brings a truth into you.
100%. I
Yeah.
mean, we have an internal pharmacy, and when we perceive something as stressful, there is a cascade of hormones, chemical signalers that are released to our body that are going to, release adrenaline from our adrenals. They might, shut down processes such as like muscle recovery, shut down immune response, shut down like reproductive processes in favor of, all the energy is going to our adrenals to pump out, adrenaline and all of that. Versus if you're perceiving something as, not so stressful, this is okay, I can do this, your body's not going to have the same physiological response. So yeah, it is very much physiological and it's thought induced.
So super interesting. And yet like no shame, because it's incredibly difficult to, like a lot of our perception has to do with our past experiences, how we were raised,
and
so
living in a capitalistic society
expectation.
Where there's a lot of competition to just feel safe and secure. But I also think that maybe there's like a responsibility to reshape that within ourselves, because otherwise then we're part of the problem and we're part of, everyone kind of, we're making ourselves sick essentially.
Right. And I mean, you don't have to be on the roller coaster. You don't have to be on.
Not to take away from the fact, I mean, you and I are sitting in very like privileged positions. We don't have a lot of the stressors that different minority groups have, or people with disabilities, or whatever. So we are sitting from a place of privilege.
Of course.
We maybe don't have the same sort of like
survival needs.
Exactly. So I want to like, that's very real, and there's a very real place for legitimate, stress and concern. But for many of us, we're living, well beyond what we actually need. Yeah. Which honestly, like, brings me a little bit into the conversation about herbs, is I feel like, you know, herbs are something that have helped me so much and supported me so much. And yet I see a lot in the wellness industry of, you know, things becoming part of this like capitalistic system wherein people think, oh, I need this special herb. I need more of this. I need this. I need this. Leah mentioned ashwagandha. I want to take ashwagandha. And it's like we're
I mean, that's me, like right there. It's
right,
like,
but
oh, pretty bottle.
right, yeah. But the problem is in a lot of the herbs that I'm going to talk about today are endangered. A lot of them are. A
Yeah.
lot of them have been over harvested. And you know, there's a lot of misinformation in the health and wellness world and just kind of like catchy phrases, like even the word adaptogen is used to describe so many different herbs.
Let's start right there.
Okay, go for it.
Let's start right there with the word adaptogen. Define adaptogen.
Yeah.
And like start right there because it is a word that you hear a lot. And you know, I like using big words like that. And sometimes I assume I know what it means, but spell it out for me.
Sure. So essentially, adaptogens help our body's ability to manage and cope with stress. They promote the strengthening and functioning of our HPA axis, so our hypothalamic pituitary adrenal cortex axis.
Which is that whole like flow chart family or collection of glands in the endocrine system that are involved in
your stress response.
Stress response.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They also help with the sympathetic nervous system and adrenal conversation.
Okay.
So they re-regulate and normalize endocrine, nervous system, and immune functions. They
and
can
normalize. Okay, so I want to like slow down because I'm going to really unpack my own misconceptions. So one of my misconceptions, I thought adaptogens were just things that you couldn't take too much or too little of because your body naturally takes what it needs and expels the rest and it evens out.
Yeah.
Is that true too?
So there are,
am I not?
yes, no, so you are, and there are, so what makes an adaptogen is that it works on the HPA axis. It's normalizing, right?
So normalizing means it's self-balancing.
Correct.
Okay.
It's non-toxic in therapeutic doses.
So it's not gonna hurt you.
It's not, you can take a therapeutic dose. I don't want to, you know, I wouldn't necessarily recommend taking one for the rest of your life, but a therapeutic dose for 6 weeks, they're non-toxic and they're non-specific. So they're not necessarily going to work on, you know, one, right, they're not going to just be like a circulatory stimulant, for example.
So one singular thread, they're gonna be non-specific, which is kind of the adaptogen part.
That's
They're gonna
exactly.
work on the balancing of the whole unit, not.
And like all herbs, they work on your whole body because nothing is in isolation.
100%.
There's many compounds. So yeah, you are right on the money with that.
Okay, I'm right on the money, but also an adaptogen is something that specifically is working on this particular axis.
On the HPA axis.
HPA axis that has to do with this, how our bodies systemically, like as a system, works together to, so we think stress, we think adrenals, but it's not just your adrenals.
It's not just your adrenals, it's your nervous system.
Gotcha.
It's, you know, I mean, in a lot of, so what happens, right, when we're under chronic stress is that our adrenals are also pumping out cortisol, right? And elevated cortisol elevates your blood sugar, which is why high levels of cortisol can sometimes lead to type 2 diabetes.
Gosh.
So it's not just one thing. It's not just one thing. And even like a lot of these adaptogens, you know, impact like anabolic health. So they help you maintain muscle mass, so nervous system, immune system, anabolic system, like it's full, it's full body. Yeah.
And I mean, that's actually preferable to perhaps like a synthetic prescriptive drug or over-the-counter drug even that is targeting one specific thing, because in this way the adaptogen is saying, let me look at this whole system and even out the highs and lows of it so that
Yeah.
it works together better.
I think nature, is really, it's really perfect in a lot of ways, and it's really smart in a lot of ways. And I think where it becomes scary is that because we don't fully understand all of these herbs, and because we can't exactly isolate necessarily all of these parts in a lab, it becomes hard to make recommendations because we never know, like maybe someone's body will react differently. However, from what I can see, so many of these plants are so much safer than any of the things that you would be getting from, a doctor. And frankly, so many of the pharmaceuticals that we take are derived from plants.
100%. And of
Right.
course, you guys, not medical advice, and this is being offered in conversation. So take it, leave it, talk to, your doctor, or talk to Leah specifically about your own
Yeah.
history and your own
And
situation.
the thing, and again, like where it becomes, I don't want this conversation to be, oh, you need to go out and buy all these herbs. Herbs are allies. They come after lifestyle. They come after food. They come after, what's your sleep like?
Mhm.
So adaptogens, not everyone needs adaptogens, right? Like if you're feeling a significant amount of stress, but you're not sleeping well, maybe what you actually need is some sort of nervous system support, like a nervine, lavender, chamomile, skullcap, valerian, hawthorn, oats. Maybe you're needing some sort of nervine to help calm your nervous system so that you can sleep at night, right? Nervines work really quickly. Adaptogens tend to be something that work over time with daily use. And the other thing is that, as far as sleep, as far as food as medicine, really eating in a way that stabilizes your blood sugar. So lots of fiber, lots of water, whole foods, avoiding processed foods, flours, refined sugars. And maybe, one of the things that helps with stabilizing blood sugar is including more herbal bitters or carminative herbs. So like I sell a digestive bitter. You can find them lots of places. Mine has mugwort and orange peel and peppermint, and I'm blanking because my mind's not there right now, but it has all sorts of digestive bitters in them that you can take before you eat. So something like that, which is going to help stabilize your blood sugar levels, is also going to help with
100%.
your stress response.
So that's your digest ease. And then do you not also have a blood stabilizing?
Yeah, I have a blood stabilizing blend, which also has some digestive or some bitter herbs as well as some vinegar in it. So it's more of an oxymel because vinegar helps to normalize blood sugar levels. So the point is, right, that it's not just, oh, you need these herbs to manage stress. It's like, well, let's look at the whole picture. Maybe what you're actually needing is some sort of sedative herb to help you sleep, or some sort of digestive herb to help your digestion. Maybe it's not actually adaptogens.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think that one of the things that makes it difficult to kind of foray into this world is the non-specific of it. Like we want to know, like with some kind of certainty. And what helps me a lot is like taking a couple deep breaths and relaxing and getting kind of an intuitive feel for what feels right for me. And that just stuff definitely takes some inner listening. Yeah,
For sure.
all right, so what do you want to say about this next?
The adaptogens.
The adaptogens.
So how about we go through what are the adaptogenic herbs?
What are the adaptogenic herbs?
Okay, so this list comes from David Winston, who's a pretty prominent herbalist in Western medicine. So we've got ashwagandha, American ginseng, Panax ginseng, schisandra, rhodiola, cordyceps, shilajit, raponticum, and then eleuthero. So those are I think there's 9 there, true adaptogens. And then what we have are probable adaptogens and some possible adaptogens. And these would be herbs like holy basil or tulsi and shatavari are probable adaptogens. Licorice root.
These are pretty popular though.
And a lot of people think that these are adaptogens, but there's not enough, they either don't meet all the criteria or there's not enough research.
Gotcha.
Like licorice root, for example, is also a probable adaptogen, and licorice is really amazing because it actually helps to raise cortisol levels if someone has complete like adrenal burnout and their body's not producing cortisol. Licorice root,
interesting.
yeah, whereas ashwagandha helps to normalize cortisol levels and helps to stabilize blood sugar. So some other possible adaptogens would be like maca, not a real adaptogen, Codonopsis, reishi, horny goatweed.
You have to laugh.
I know. So, okay, so back to the true adaptogens, okay? And many of these, and I'll go through, many of these are endangered or at risk, okay? So ashwagandha is one that's pretty popular. I know you take a supplement that has ashwagandha and phosphatidylserine in it. It is specific to help to normalize cortisol levels. It's great for muscle health, for immunity, fertility, and it's considered more of a calming adaptogen. Okay, so ashwagandha, I take mine at night because for me, it helps to sort of dampen my cortisol levels at night so that I can get to sleep. If someone wakes up with a ton of anxiety, they might be better off taking something like ashwagandha in the morning. Again, ashwagandha has become very popular. It is, I think it's at risk. I think it's at risk. So just, being discerning with what it is does your body actually need and where can we find alternatives, replacements, right? Because it's not just about replacing, a pharmaceutical with an herb. Frankly, for me, I would probably do better focusing on some lifestyle changes, right? Instead of necessarily just like taking ashwagandha every night. American ginseng.
And you're really saying that in order to put a bigger picture context about just global sustainability.
Totally. Every time you buy a supplement, you're buying a plastic bottle, you're paying for, the herb, the space it takes up, you're paying for the factory where it was produced, you're paying for all the plastic, you're paying for the delivery, and it's like, can we start to be a little bit more
just aware,
conscientious as consumers? Hannah and I tried to grow ashwagandha this year on the farm and we did not succeed. But I know if anyone can grow it, it's Hannah. So really, you should be able to grow ashwagandha anywhere that you can grow tomatoes. And you use the roots primarily, but also the aerial parts, the leaves.
Did it not grow because of the quality of the ground wasn't compatible for it? Was it weather nice?
I don't know what happened to ours. I think we put it in a raised bed, and I think that maybe the soil in the raised bed wasn't the best. Yeah. American ginseng is also at risk. But it's a great herb that's highly tolerated. It's not too energizing. It's great for high stress. A lot of these adaptogens are amazing for athletes, again, because they help us with recovery.
Yeah, I think that was interesting for me over the course of my lifetime, our experiences where my athletic hobby, or my athletic, I should say, coping strategy, my coping strategy for stress was hard and heavy workouts, and kind of how that was just another stressor, and like there wasn't a conversation or an awareness of that at that time, whereas now there's just a little bit more.
Well, and we should also be careful too, taking, prescribing, or I guess not prescribing, but recommending or taking adaptogens for people who are already prone to burnout, because it can actually create a situation where they're pushing themselves further than they need to. And the thing is like, obviously we're having this conversation. I think these herbs are amazing. I think they can be so helpful for so many of us, but it's just to kind of, keep it discerning.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's in your stress resiliency
tea?
Tincture?
My stress resiliency tea. That has licorice root, that has fenugreek, fennel, and I'm blanking on the fourth. I'm not remembering. So those herbs,
I could get it over there. Do you want me to get it?
you can, yeah. It's not, they're not really, it's not really adaptogens, but if you
Oh,
wanted,
they're not?
no, I mean, the licorice root is a probable adaptogen.
Yeah, you said it, those three.
There's a fourth one in there.
Flaxseed.
Flaxseed, okay, flaxseed. So you get those fatty acids too. Yeah.
Okay.
So Panax ginseng or Asian ginseng is very energizing. It improves libido in postmenopausal women. It reduces menopausal symptoms and supports heart health as well. Again, this is more of an energizing herb. And again, it's at risk. It's been highly harvested.
Gotcha.
And I can't remember. So they had, I think Asian ginseng, I believe was used first. Actually, I don't want to say that. Maybe this is just the way, I'm gonna not say that because I'm sure American ginseng was used by indigenous people and we just don't have as
100%,
much
yeah.
written,
Yeah.
knowledge about that.
Yeah.
But from what I've read and researched, American ginseng, from what I've read and researched, they were trying to look for an alternative to Asian ginseng or Panax ginseng, and they found Eleuthero, which is considered like a gentler ginseng, and it's sometimes called Siberian ginseng.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a little bit gentler. This one is not as at risk or endangered, so I would say this one is more in the category of you might want to give this one a try. It's a little bit gentler, and I think they used it. What was the space race called to the moon?
I don't know.
Do you remember
The
in the
space race.
60s? Whatever
Yeah,
that was,
yeah.
yeah. So I was listening to a story and the guy was saying, you know, the Americans were using amphetamines and Russia they were using Eleuthero. So
Gotcha.
to help with stress, to help with focus, which again all of these do. And again, American ginseng is like just a little bit less stimulating than Asian ginseng. Next we have Schisandra, so Schisandra berry, which is is more calming of the adaptogens. It's similar to L-theanine. So L-theanine is an amino acid that has a very calming quality, and to me, Schisandra kind of feels similar. So you'll find this in a lot of, you know, nighttime blends. There's also very helpful for women's health. And when you're taking adaptogens, I prefer taking blends. I think that
For sure.
you know, and it depends. Some herbalists are more, you know, about just recommending one herb, but for most of history, herbs have been used in blends. So I'm a big fan of taking these as blends. Rhodiola, helpful for mood. It's energizing. It's great for focus and recovery. So again, this is one of the other more stimulating adaptogens. It's great for focus and muscle recovery. They've used it for fatigue, depression, as an alternative for ADHD medication. Again, it's also one that is at risk. So just being mindful.
I mean, if you need it, you need it.
But if you need, right, and you can make that decision. You could also try to grow these things yourself. Cordyceps is a mushroom, great for improving stamina. It's a little bit more calming. Shilajit is this is more of a traditional Chinese herb. Again, great for maintaining muscle, like ashwagandha, like cordyceps. Raponticum is often used. It's like known as like an anabolic adaptogen. So it's often used for folks who are very thin and have a lot of muscle wasting. Helps with muscle recovery. And that's it. And then, so those were just to go through the list again: ashwagandha, American ginseng, Panax ginseng, Schisandra, rhodiola, cordyceps, shilajit, raponticum, and Eleuthero. And Eleuthero and Schisandra are two that are a little bit less endangered.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned there were foods that would be helpful for burnout and adrenal fatigue.
So fiber,
Gotcha, that's what you mean by
whole
fiber.
foods.
I'm like, kale.
So bitters, 100% bitter herbs.
So bitters, even would you say, what's the lettuce that's bitter? It tastes a little bit
Parsley?
peppery. No, well, yeah, that's an herb.
Arugula.
Arugula.
Radicchio. Yeah. So bitter greens.
Mhm.
Definitely, getting enough protein. All of this is going to differ depending on, stage and phase in life. But really, for most of us, focusing on whole foods, blood sugar stabilizing meals. I like to add, like psyllium husk, chia seeds, hemp seeds to my smoothies to add an extra fiber. You can add,
I know when I come to your house and you make me a little lunch salad
Mhm.
bowl, there's always a number of different little piles in it. Is there like a formula for organizing that so it's balanced? Like, what are you looking for when you
So
load up?
I envision a plate and then I chop it in half. In
Okay,
half the plate, I do non-starchy vegetables, greens. And then maybe like a quarter of the plate or less, just depending. I'll do some sort of healthy carb. I love sweet potatoes. I love
yeah.
roasted sweet potatoes.
Yeah. What were those ones I had at your house the other day?
The white, so
Uh-huh.
you take like a white Japanese sweet potato and you roast it long and slow, and then you can put some like miso on it, like maybe a little bit of like vegan butter and miso is so good mixed in.
You guys, like stopping at Leah's house around lunchtime is quite an experience because she'll say, "Are you hungry?" And I'll say, "Yes." And then boom, boom, all of a sudden there's like this chopped up salad with parsley and there's sprinkly things on top. What do you sprinkle? Hemp seeds? Like what else do you put on top?
Sesame seeds.
Sesame seeds.
Yeah, all sorts of nutritional yeast. Yeah.
Yeah,
So then
nutritional
the
yeast is always
final
good.
quarter of the plate is gonna be some sort of protein.
Okay.
And then, like healthy fat. So to add flavor, our brains need fat. Our especially as women, we probably need more fat than men.
So that would be avocado. What else?
Avocado, olive oil. Again, all your seeds and nuts are, a huge source of healthy
Pepitas you
fat.
put on sometimes.
Tahini, I use tahini a ton. Yeah, coconut oil. So, but really, like what we're just really the foods that are going to be most destabilizing are your super processed foods. So anything that's ground into a flour.
So anything that's a no, these are no foods. These are
They're just gonna be less stabilizing, yeah. But maybe, again, like if not having these foods elicits a strong stress response, and that's not gonna be healthy either.
Right,
So
it
then
doesn't
it's
mean no,
figuring
never,
out,
it's just,
yeah, so figuring out, like maybe you take a digestive bitter before you eat
Gotcha.
something that, is a little bit more refined. I wanted to just go over really quick some probable or some alternatives. Oh, I think I did, but some alternatives that are not quite endangered. So Tulsi, holy basil, is a big one that's not necessarily a strict adaptogen. However, I find drinking holy basil tea to be so supportive for my stress response. I'll do some holy basil with rose. If you're a coffee drinker, adding in some sort of nerve support with your coffee, whether that be a lavender rose tea, or I have some nerve support tinctures. This one has skullcap, blue vervain, motherwort, and passion flower in it. So
you put that in your tea?
No, I would just do it separate. But if you're drinking a lot of caffeine, like let's balance it out with some of these like more nerve support herbs. And then rosemary is also one that can be great for stress. It's been shown to help workers avoid burnout. It's great for energy, focus, and concentration. So rosemary tea, it's the herb of memory. It's amazing for dementia. I mean, when you smell it, right, it has that kind of like wakes you up a little bit. It's so full of volatile oils. So yeah, so that's what I have for you.
Can you go back? Do you think that like burnout, adrenal fatigue, pretty much everyone wants to like kind of raise their hand. Are there indicators or markers? Can we just all assume that we're burnt out and have fatigued adrenals?
Yeah, so you could get something called the Dutch test through a functional medicine doctor, or you can order one yourself, and that measures hormones. So that measures cortisol levels, it measures DHEA. If you feel like you need to have, you know, that sort of like physical
Evidence.
test, yeah. To be honest, and here's kind of like my, you know, my qualm with all of this is, you know, there, you know, we live in a world where a lot of people need a lot of help.
Mhm.
And I think that, you know, we can become a little like self-absorbed, kind of chasing sometimes, you know,
A solution to a problem.
that would just be resolved if we did the basic things, which is
Yes.
eat stabilizing foods,
Get
sleep.
sleep.
Yeah. That being said,
Check into your schedule. Am I doing too
Totally.
much? Watch the attitude, the thought stream, meditate, do yoga, take care of
Mhm.
yourself kinds of
so
things.
yeah, if you really want, you know, the physical like evidence of what my hormone levels are at, then by all means get testing done. You and I have both done that.
Mhm.
And at the same time, like, I mean, for most of us, we kind of know, we know where,
Mhm.
and if you don't know, then maybe that's where the testing comes in, or that's where you're talking to the professional. But
And also there's a spectrum or a continuum, like of how significant or severe the issue might be. And if you feel like it's a mild kind of feeling that you have about it, it's one thing. Where you feel like you can't do your daily activities and you're really debilitated by it, that's another thing.
yeah, I think that, you know, the thing is, you know, people will get so much testing and then the recommendations are always the same.
And do they
And
do
then,
it?
and do they do the recommendations,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, so, you know, yeah, we can test
Kind of
it
like chasing the ghost.
a little bit. Yeah, so no, I think a lot of us could work on our stress resiliency. Adaptogens, I think, can be
Good
so
support.
helpful for so many of us.
So if I said, okay, well, Leah, like here are your tincture bottles, would you just go real quick? Like, I know on the back it says 1 dropper full, 2 dropper fulls in water. Just unpack it for
Well,
people
so
who
the
are like,
thing-
I'd like to try it, but I don't know how.
So I don't have any tinctures that are like strict adaptogen tinctures.
Okay, so what do you have? You
So I
talked
have,
about digestes.
I have a bitter support, which you would take before you eat.
Digestes you would take before you eat.
I have a nerve support, which you could take throughout the day to help
Okay.
with stress, and nervous tension. I have a women's health support, which you could also take as just a daily, a daily support for your reproductive system. That one has black cohosh. I'm blanking because this was not what I was planning on talking about. I can't
That's okay.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has
it's on the
berry.
bottom. It's on the bottom.
Mhm.
And then you have a blood stabilizing blood
I
sugar.
have a blood sugar stabilizing blend, yeah, which you could also take before meals. And if you want to try and you've got questions, talk to me. And I'll help you out if you have any questions about herbs. And if you want more of this sort of conversation, my colleague Hannah and I are putting on 2 workshops, one the end of August, one in September. The August one is herbs for the nervous system. The September one is herbs for the digestive system, and both of them will be down at Oxbow Orchard in Valley View. We will do a plant tour. We'll have hands-on like medicine making demos, and you can ask us all of your questions there.
That's outstanding.
So you would sign up for
If you
that.
haven't been down to Oxbow, it's definitely worth the time. It's right down the hill off of, what's the name of the street?
It's Canal.
Canal, yeah, off of Canal, like right behind the yoga studio there, so you could enter off of Rockside. And if you come off of Rockside, it's before you come to the Valley View city buildings. Yeah, it's really cool there.
Right on.
Right on. Okay, so Leah's contact information, that will be in the show notes below, so you can DM or reach out to the studio and I'll help you get in touch with her. And she loves talking to you about your individual circumstances and answering your own questions and hearing your own
And
kind of health scenario
I-
around this to help you.
I do health coaching consultation, so I'll do like a free, like 20-minute consultation, and then if anyone is interested, a lot of like nutritional support, herbal support.
She'll teach you how to make really great lunches, and then I'll stop by and see you, and you can put together a little bowl for me. And then just like drive around the city and
Yeah,
grab some lunch with people.
yeah.
Yeah. So yay, thank you, Leah.
You're welcome, thank you.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for following, you guys. Namaste.